Mizzou Baseball defeated its border rival Kansas 14-6 on Wednesday in front of a sold-out Taylor Stadium crowd. The Tigers hit the road for a 3-game set against the number 1 team in the nation, the Tennessee Volunteers. First pitch is scheduled for tonight at 5:30 Central Time. Number 24, Mizzou Softball picked up a midweek non-conference victory on Wednesday, 5-1 against Kansas City. The Tigers traveled to Starkville, Mississippi for a 3-game series against the Mississippi State Bulldogs beginning tonight. First pitch is set for 6 o'clock tonight. All right, we're going to sort of combine baseball and softball together today as we're really close as April is upon us. So both Mizzou baseball and softball, both of them own above a 500 record, but a sub-500 conference record. The softball team, they opened the season ranked number 8 in the nation thanks to their Cinderella-like run to the College World Series last season, but they have struggled at times throughout the season, particularly losing to Kansas last Wednesday and easily could have been knocked out of the top 25 if not for their 3-game sweep of South Carolina last weekend. And then meanwhile, the baseball team has jumped out to an 18-8 overall record, already surpassing their win total from last season. Stole a game against number 2 Arkansas in late March in a hard-fought 3-season series and took 2 out of 3 from South Carolina last weekend. And that same South Carolina team, they earned a series win against Vanderbilt. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you here. What do you think is the biggest story this season thus far? Is it Mizzou baseball's success or Mizzou softball struggles?
Thus far, I think it's Mizzou baseball's success, and I know that could change with some upcoming SEC games for the Tigers, especially against a really good Tennessee game this weekend. But first of all, I'm not ready to make a final decision yet on Mizzou softball because they have got plenty of SEC games coming up as well that I think give them a chance to right the ship and really gain some momentum as we get late in the year. But with Mizzou baseball, as you mentioned, having already passed their win total with 18 right now.
That's not saying much.
I know, but like they have been very competitive at certain times throughout the season. They're getting the win against a number 2 Arkansas team a couple weeks ago and then taking 2 out of 3 against South Carolina. I don't think a whole lot of us thought that they were going to be very competitive at all in the SEC, and like even 3-6 is better than what I had them at. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's kind of what has shocked me. I know that's saying a lot considering I'm surprised by a 3-6 SEC record, but I think they've taken substantial steps forward. The win against Kansas on Wednesday was really, really fun to watch, and they're just a fun team in general. They score a pretty good amount of runs, and they have a good approach at the plate. They're a good first-inning scoring team. They're not always looking to hit the first pitch. It's work the count, get runs any way you can. I think that's what has been part of their success all year long is that there have been plenty of games that I can think of where they're scoring 7 or 8 runs and not with 12, 13 hits, but with only 6 or 7 hits because they're taking their walks. It's the sac flies, taking advantage of errors. So I've been pleasantly surprised from what I've seen, and maybe I'm still too optimistic about the softball's outlook, so I don't want to look at them too down yet, especially with still a month of baseball left to play. But I've liked what I've seen so far. I'm not expecting much this weekend against Tennessee, but coming in next week when they get on to play Kentucky, LSU, other SEC teams like that obviously aren't the caliber of Tennessee, I'm looking for some good things and continuing to score some runs.
You know, this is a tough question. I'm not going to lie. That's why I put in the show. Obviously softball, they have been a very big disappointment this far. This is a team that started number 8 in the country, that was started in the season number 8, and they almost dropped out of the rankings completely. However, that is not the bigger story. I think it's the success of baseball, honestly. I mean, we need to understand something that last year, March 30th of last year, when they went to Lawrence, Kansas to play Kansas, that was the first time they took on KU since leaving the Big 12. And that game, they entered the 7th inning 9-2. I covered this game, and I remember it, which was already a forgettable year to that point for the Tigers. I'm not going to say it was already a great season or anything like that. It's ridiculous. But the Jayhawks somehow scored 8 times in the 7th inning. They took advantage of Missouri's sloppy defense in pitchers' inability to find the strike zone, and they won that game 10-9. Do you guys remember that game? Because that was easily the lowest point of Mizzou baseball last year. I mean, granted they won 15 games, but they were horrible. But this year, we look what happened on Wednesday. They took another 7-0 lead, which none of the basically methods followed in 2021 this time around. And that's why this year is so much different than last year. It's noting, how many more wins Mizzou has thus far, and then, of course, Fox Liam. This dude is fantastic. Obviously, the transfer from Coastal Carolina over in the offseason, and I got to admit, this dude hit 7 of 11 against South Carolina. SEC Player of the Week last year. Drove in 3 of Mizzou's first 6 runs against Kansas. This dude is phenomenal. And Steve Beazer, I like what he said about Liam. It's not that just he has a successful approach at the plate. Is that he's having fun. That's another thing. That is what was missing last year as well in Mizzou's team. Yes, they were god-awful, but they were not having fun. And then you look at other dudes like Luke Mann. He has definitely improved his batting average. Last year, he didn't even belong on the squad. And then you look at dudes like Torrin Montgomery, who's that has improved. Josh Day with his sustained success. And then we continue to look at the roster. Nander DeSadas, I think he's been very good. Spencer Miles has very improved this year. I like Newbeck. I think he's done a very nice job. But this team, while they are not going to basically be 20 games over 500 at the end of the season, because like you said, Ben, they got that Tennessee conference or series rather to play. They won't win a game in my opinion, but the way they fought against Arkansas, the number 2 team in the nation, they fought all 3 games, and they fought with Vanderbilt 2 of those games. So Tennessee, while they may not win one, if they can keep it close, that shows you how good Mizzou baseball is.
Agreed. Without a doubt. I mean, if we're talking about these same couple of series last year, and I know last year when they played Vandy, they had to face both Leiter and Kumar Rocker, and I don't remember the exact scores, but I'm pretty confident that it was not particularly close. But this
last year,
yeah,
it was not even close.
Yeah. This year, I at least have some confidence that they can at least compete and keep it close. And once again, I know that's very low expectations to be just expecting to keep it close against a good team, but it takes multiple years to build a good baseball program, and if you can just continue steady improvement, I think that increases the outlook for the next couple of years, and it's something to get excited about.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the baseball team this year. Obviously, I was reporting for KCOU last Wednesday when they beat Kansas, and obviously, like you said, Ben, this team scores early and often. They had 7 at the end of the second inning and really just never looked back from there. This time around, it was actually the Jayhawks playing bad offensively and defensively, as their best player had 3 errors in that game. But I want to look at the positives. I really do, but I just don't really see Mizzou keeping it close against Tennessee at all this weekend, maybe in the 3rd game, but in their first 2 games, they're just going to be unmatched. The 2 pitchers that Tennessee have, it's just been unbelievable. They're both 6-0. One has a .88 ERA and the other one just under 1. So they're just unreal.
It's basically Mizzou Softball from last year, which no one could basically touch them.
Right. And, but this team, like you guys been saying, they are different. So if they can put up a couple runs, even get a couple hits off of Tennessee, I will be very, very happy. Like you said, they have more wins than they did last year, and I think that's already a win. Steve Beazer and his club has been phenomenal. I mean, you talk about Fox Liam, and this man, obviously, in the beginning of the season, he was nursing a wrist injury, but now he's in the lineup almost every day in that DH spot. This man can flat out rake and it's just been really cool to see. I think the transfers, like you said, have been really good. I think the pitching has been phenomenal for Mizzou. Before I throw it over to Adam here, just for the Mizzou softball, like Ben said, I can't count them out yet. They got a really good series against Mississippi State coming this weekend, which will be really, really good. And if they can take 2 out of there, I'd be very, very happy for them. Both have about the similar record going, but I would say that Mizzou baseball definitely takes the cake here. They have played very good, and I know that they've already had 18 non-conference games, so that does help. But it's going to be tough this weekend, but if they can pull out maybe one, and if I say one, it would be the Sunday game, because I just don't see them beating the number 1 and 2 aces for the Volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hate to jump on the trend like you guys here, but absolutely it's got to be baseball. As a Mizzou optimist, I guess I would call myself, the positive surprise is always going to be the best one. I mean, you were talking about Liam there. He can flat out hit, but another guy that I'm really looking at, his giant leap forward is Josh Day. Last year he hit 250, and this year so far he's hitting 350. And I mean, we have played a lot of early season easy opponents, but in SEC games he's hitting almost 290 with 2 home runs through only 9 games in the conference so far, and those are all against very good teams. Even the South Carolina team, I think, has some positive bright spots. So I think he's absolutely turning around, and he's a senior this year, I believe. So he's a leader on the team, and in the SEC, it's not about going from worst to best in 1 year. It's going to be about making those steps forward over time, and I think this is the first of those few steps forward to getting better recruits and getting better as a team as a whole until we can finally start to compete with these teams like Tennessee, like Arkansas.